All right, good morning, everyone. I realize it's probably afternoon or lunchtime for some of you folks joining us on the East Coast, so thanks for spending an hour with us. My name is Chris Hugo. I'm with the Portent team and just wanted to kind of start off with giving you folks a quick agenda for what we have in store for you today, and then we'll go ahead and hand things over to our Master of Ceremonies, Jeff Hall. So for today, we are going to, we have a presentation here that my colleague George is going to be sharing with you. And after the presentation, you're going to have a copy of both the recording of today, but also access to the slide deck. So don't feel too pressured to take perfect notes because we're going to set you up for success and get you everything that you need. Tomorrow morning, you'll get a copy of everything. So we'll spend probably about 30 minutes with George, and he's going to share with us some great tips for optimizing for local SEO as a Precor retailer. From there, we're going to tell you a little bit about how Portent can help you with some of these initiatives. And then we'll lastly kind of wrap up with probably a good 15 to 20 minutes of questions and answers. We're going to be sharing a lot of information with you guys today, and so we want to have a chance for you to ask questions and for us to get a little bit deeper in some of those areas that you may be interested to learn more. So before we go ahead and kick things off with George, Jeff, I just want to check in with you and say hello.
Very good. Hello and hi everyone, and thanks for joining us today. As Chris said, this is Jeff Hall, Consumer Marketing at Precor, and along with your dealer team, Andy, Mike, Terry, Todd, and Annie Beeson, we welcome you to this webinar on local SEO for dealers. We know that the majority of shoppers are using the internet, and we also know how important it is for those shoppers to find your business when they search for fitness equipment. Our goal as your team at Precor is to help you in every aspect of successfully running your business, and lots of you have told us how difficult it is to get trusted information about online marketing. So today's webinar promises to have a lot of relevant and useful information. As you heard, Portent is our partner, and they're presenting today's webinar. They're an internet marketing agency, and we have worked with Partner for SEO, online content, and AdWords pay-per-click. From working with us, they are familiar with our industry and with Precor both as a brand and as a company. You heard Chris Hugo, who's with our account team. Bria Starmer is also on the line, and George Freitag, their SEO strategist, will be presenting today. As Chris mentioned, there'll be an opportunity to submit questions, and I think they'll let us know how to do that in just a second. And I encourage you, if there's anything you're thinking about that isn't clear or reflects in your own experience, please do ask it, because there's a great chance that someone else on the line also has that same question. And we want to make sure that we get all the questions answered, and we will have time today to make sure that we do address all of the questions. So with that, let me turn it back over to George and Portent for the content today.
Thank you, Jeff. So as you just mentioned, we do have the ability to have a little bit of a dialogue with you folks during the presentation. So just to keep things a little bit clear so that way all of you can hear George very clearly during the presentation, all of your lines have been muted. And so the best way to communicate with us through this presentation is using the chat box provided with the GoToMeeting screen. So on your screen right now, you should see a panel. It's usually on the right hand side of your screen, and there's a box that will expand that says questions. And in that box, feel free to type and add a question at any time. What I'm going to be doing is monitoring those questions and be asking those with George at the end of the presentation. So as things come up, type away in those. We'll be monitoring, and again, have that session with George here at the end of the presentation. Also, if you ever have any difficulty hearing us during the presentation, go ahead and let us know in that question box as well. Again, we're keeping close eyes on that during the presentation. So without further ado, I would like to hand things over to George. Oh, actually, let me tell you a little bit about Portent. While I drink my second cup of coffee over here. On your screen, we're now getting into the slide deck here, but as Jeff mentioned, we are an internet marketing agency. We're located here in Seattle, just a few miles away from Precore's headquarters. And this summer, we actually celebrated our 19th birthday, which is a little funny to think about, being older than Google itself. So, but we are a team of just over 55 individuals here. We have expertise from SEO like George to paid search, content, social media, design and development. And we really take an integrated marketing approach to our clients' business goals and their strategies. And so this graphic that we have here is kind of the simplest way to kind of share with you on that integrated approach. So the three bars that you see to the right in green, infrastructure, analytics, and content, those are kind of the blueprints, how we approach internet marketing. So those are the three things that we believe have to be in place. So infrastructure being your website, analytics to track, what are you doing as a marketer and is it moving the needle for you? And then content. And content includes everything from imagery to copy, product descriptions, and so on. From there, we start to parse things out by channel. So first, looking at things like paid search, AdWords, and display advertising, to channels that are earned, like organic or SEO search, social media. And then lastly, there's also owned, your website, your blog, your creative assets. And so, taking a holistic approach to your digital marketing strategy to really maximize the opportunities that we have to pursue your goals. And so that's a little bit about us. Today, again, we're going to be just dialing into that earned channel, specifically SEO. And, from what we know about your business and the goals and the opportunities that you folks have, today's presentation is really going to be tailored around the local aspect. So, as Jeff mentioned, helping people find you online. So to tell us how, I'm going to hand things over to George.
Hi, so today we are going to be talking about SEO for retailers, specifically local SEO for dealers. We're going to be spending a lot of time just on what it takes to get the most out of Google and Bing and getting that search traffic to your website and having that turn into visitors to your front door. Before we get started, I'm going to be giving out a few links throughout the webinar. If you don't get a chance to write them down, that's okay. They're all located here right now at this bit.ly bundle. So just go to this address and you can get every single link that I mentioned in the presentation. And I'll be giving this again at the end. So if you don't get a chance to write this down, you can get that again at the end. Really quick, a little bit about me. My name is George Freitag. I'm an SEO strategist here at Portent. I've been with Portent for about 2.5 years. I've been doing over 6 years of web consulting, and over that time, I've spent a lot of time working specifically on local SEO and SEO for small and medium-sized businesses. I've worked with over 1,000 small businesses all over the U.S., including some in the UK, Canada, and Australia. I've performed various internal and external trainings, workshops, webinars, and other education events. So I've done a lot with local businesses, working directly with them and working with others who also work on local businesses. So this has really been one of my major focuses, and I'm happy to be sharing everything with you today. What we're going to be going over today is first we're going to start out with what SEO is and why it's important. We're going to be going over what the most important business profiles are for you to focus on. We're going to go over what directories and citations are and what role they play in local SEO. And then we're really briefly going to go over reviews and what role they play in local SEO. But before we get started, I like to start at the beginning. And to me, getting a website online is a lot like getting ready for a race. It can take a long time. It's a huge emotional investment, physical investment. It's draining, and when you get done, it's a huge accomplishment. But it takes a lot of time of training, stretching, and preparation in order to get to that. And then once race day comes, it's sort of like this. It turns out you're actually not the only one in the race, and you're not the only one on the internet, and that can catch you off guard. It catches me off guard all the time still. So what can you do? Well, SEO is really one of the ways that you can stand out. Like dressing up in a gorilla costume, it's your way to sort of stand out from the crowd and make a difference and make yourself known. So why is SEO important? I'm going to go over a few numbers. First of all, compared to PPC, it's got a much higher amount of traffic, so more people, it's around 70-80% of people go to those non-paid or organic results and search results when they do a search over the PPC. So while PPC can be a lot faster, in the long run, SEO always wins out. This is a couple years old, but still you can see the trending of SEO versus social media. So this is just traffic in general to websites. So social media had a huge jump at the beginning, and it still plays a huge role, but still search traffic is the dominant way people are getting to websites. So it's going to continue to be an important channel for you to focus on for a very long time. Local SEO specifically is very important, and there's a lot of great things about it. About 20 to 30% of desktop searches have local intent. What that means is that they've got a local place in mind that they're looking for, or a local result. When you go over to mobile searches on phones and smartphones, it goes up to 40 to 66%, depends on who you ask. But that is even a larger volume of people on their iPhone doing local searches. What makes that even more impressive is within the next year, mobile search is going to take over desktop search. So by 2015, if it hasn't already, there's going to be more searches performed on a mobile device over desktop devices. And this is always something very interesting to me, that 88% of consumers who search for a local business usually visit it within 24 hours. So that means if someone's looking for a retailer, they're looking to go there right at that moment. And so that makes it even more important to have an existing present within those search results. Local SEO can also be very frustrating. Different places can show up in different results. Different factors can mean different things depending on what market you're in. It's constantly changing. It can be totally influenced by your actual location and geographic data. Listings can get duplicated. They can get wrong. They can be deleted. Lots of things can happen with that, and so they can be very frustrating. But in the end, it's got a huge potential. So you can do things like this. You can outrank large companies. So here's a local mortgage company outranking big old Wells Fargo. That's because of the localization of the results, and so that's one of the huge benefits of playing the local SEO game. And another thing, local SEO is not just for SEO. This is something that is incredibly important. It's what drives all of those navigations sub-programs. So if someone's using Google Maps or Apple Maps to get to your office and that's wrong, local SEO is what can fix that for you. What SEO is not, it's often simplified to something that just makes you rank higher, gets you more hits, gets you more links, gets you more reviews. None of that is really the goal of SEO. What it is, it's getting relevant traffic to your website and then getting that person to do what you want them to do. So what do you want them to do once they get to the website? For you, for most local businesses, it's really you want to get here so they can get to your storefront. So you want to show up here. This is a search result in Google. This is the map result in Google. This is another place you want to be. Here's another search engine called Bing that you probably heard of. That's another good place to be if you want people to find your business. Here's Bing Maps. It's got its own map thing, and that's another good place. And then don't forget about this. This is Apple Maps. This is an iPad result. So you do want to show up here as well. So let's start with on-site SEO. This is really what I call the head start, and the reason why I call it the head start is because it really is the way to get ahead of the competition by putting a few basic elements in place. You really start out with a big lead over the other websites and any other websites starting out. So of those elements, there's some really important ones, and those are the ones we're going to discuss. We're going to go over title tag, that's very important, contact information, location pages for all your storefronts, and then making sure that the content is crawlable. So starting out with title tags is a very simple thing. Title tags are the most important thing that the most important piece of content on your website. Nothing influences ranking and position in search engines more than the title tags. You want to make sure that each one has a unique one, and this easy format can help you craft unique title tags for each one of your pages. The homepage title, you're usually going to want to have your business name first, followed by a brief description of who you are and where you're located. The reason why is Google seems to prefer the business name first, since that's what people are looking for. Internal pages, you're going to want to have some sort of topical focus, whether it's just contact or about you, or one of your products like a treadmill or elliptical, followed by your business name with some location information. Here's some sample title tags for an actual business that I keep on, or an imaginary business that I've submitted to a few directories for the sake of this presentation. But you can see you've got a focus on it that's both geographical and specific. Another thing to take note of is the meta description. That's the description below that. And that doesn't have any direct impact on ranking, but it is the copy that convinces someone to click on your results. So saying something like free shipping on orders over $599 actually does have a big impact on the amount of clicks that a specific result can get in a search result. If you need help crafting your title tags and meta descriptions, we actually have a tool. If you go to this address, which, like I said, is in that link bundle I talked about, you can go here and you can see what different titles and descriptions will look like in websites, so you can make sure that they don't get truncated or anything like that. The phone number is going to be a very important element for small businesses and for retailers. Specifically, that's pretty much what you want people to do. So you want to be sure that they've got a phone number that they can call on every single page. One thing to take note of is related to tracking numbers. You want to make sure that the number that Google sees is the local number for your business and not a tracking number that's used by a third-party company. If you work with any tracking companies, call tracking services, and they're giving you a new number, you want to make sure that that number is not being picked up by Google. And so what you need to do is really just ask them. You should say, is this number being indexed by search engines, or are you displaying my actual number to them? Any good call tracking company should know exactly what you're talking about and have an answer for you. If they don't, then you probably want to look around. It's a very simple question, and they should know exactly what you're talking about. So just be sure to check that with them. The location page is probably the most element for any local business to have, and that means you want to have one page, one location page for each one of your storefronts. So each address that you have needs its own page, and on that page has its own title, own location data. So here's a great example of one of the Precore retailers with several locations, but still every single one of those places has its own page. So if you click on it, it's got the address, some unique information, and the local telephone number. So every location page should have the full address listed on it, exactly as it is in any other directory like the phone book. It should use the NAP. This is going to be the only acronym that I give the entire time, but it stands for name, address, and phone. And I'm going to go into this in a lot of detail later on, but basically this, for the point of this, you just need to make sure that it is on those location pages. Some basic elements, basic things to keep in mind when you're putting your website together. Google uses actual human factors to determine how important different content is. What that means is that the higher up on the page, generally, the more important the content is viewed. So if you got stuff at the top of the page, it's very important. Stuff in the middle is less important, and then if you're just cramming a bunch of words at the bottom, they're not important at all. Google's going to generally ignore them. So that's something that some person might have done for you in the past, where they just write a bunch of words at that very bottom of the page, just because they don't really want to put any thought to actually turning it into copy. That's not doing anything for you, so you should review it. You don't want to block your pages, so just the general guideline is just make sure you can get to all your pages using your mouse just by clicking to them. That's the way that search engines are going to get to it, so that's the way that you make sure that they can see all the content on your website. You want to be sure to use HTML text, and that just means actual text instead of pictures of it. So sometimes you'll use an image of a title just because you want to keep the font. Google can't see that, and so you want to be be sure to use a different method to show actual text to the search engines. The best test for that is just to try to highlight and copy and paste it into a Word document, and then that way you know whether it is, whether it's HTML text or not. And if it's just your logo, that's totally fine. Don't worry about logos, but everything else should be actual text that can be seen by the search engines. Some other important things, just make sure that anytime you got a new page, it's got a different topic, or anytime you have a new topic, it's got its own page that's focused on it. That just really helps give each section of the website its own focus and helps you target as many terms as possible. So things like services and products should have their own pages. About history, that's usually one page that's worth standing by itself. The contact, definitely. And then in your case, you're going to put lots of different location pages for each one of those. General information. And if you want to have a blog, that should also be in its own section. The next thing we're going to talk about is getting consistent. This is related to those business profiles. So you just want to be sure that you are doing the same thing over and over again, like working on your pacing in a race. And what you want to be making sure is consistent is the name, address, phone, that NAP that we talked about earlier. So that's your business name as it's written in a phone book with no extra words. This is the literal business name that you would write a check to or something like that. The physical address of your storefront, the local phone number, not a tracking number, not an 800 number, and the web page, in many cases, that is relevant to that specific address. Why is the NAP important? It's important because the search engines use this as a metric of popularity and trust. When you get it wrong, it can cause a lot of problems within maps and within all of the mapping platforms. And it also can mean that you just don't get credit. So since Google uses this as a way of seeing how popular your website is, if it's wrong, then it just might not associate it, and you kind of lose out on popularity points that could be helping you. We're going to start out with the business profiles, and these are the ones that you want to get really granular about. You want to make sure that they're filled out 100%. You want to monitor them, check on them frequently. I'm only giving 3 right now, but those 3 you really need to pay a lot of attention to and make sure that they're accurate. The first one is Google, and then another thing that's important about these business profiles is that these are how search results get local. So when you have those local results, like I was talking about earlier, this is how they are localized. This is where Google gets the information. When you do a general search like exercise equipment store, this is where those localized results come from, is from those business profiles. I want to show a couple different types of search results within Google, just because it changes pretty often. So this is the traditional local search result. This is the one you might be the most familiar with, but basically it's just a series of ads on top, followed by sometimes a generic search result just for a website with some lettered local results throughout it, or sometimes all in a bulk together. But anytime you see any sort of combination of those simple lettered results, that's called a traditional local result. What happens with this is when you highlight over one of these lettered results, you get a whole bunch of information on the right that includes the address, phone number, reviews, and contact information. If you click on those reviews, it takes you a little pop-up window where it highlights all the reviews that are written on Google, and those are the only ones it shows. The other result is a carousel local result. These aren't typically showing up for exercise equipment stores, but they were popular up until a little bit ago, and they might come back. But I just want to show you what they are so you are familiar with them. But basically, they're these picture results at the very top of a search. What happens when you click on those is that it takes you to a search result for the actual business name. And then you scroll down and it's nothing in it, and it's just all information about that specific business. Right now, the exercise equipment stores are all using traditional local results, but that might change, and so you do need to be familiar with both kinds of results. So where is Google getting all this information from, you might be wondering. Well, it's getting it from Google My Business, which used to be called Google Plus Local, which used to be called Google Places for Businesses, before that Google Local, but basically that's where it's getting it. And where it is here. It's this page, this Google Plus page that no one ever goes to. That's where it lives. So that has been used. I've heard it used as a reason why people aren't interested in it. But that's okay, because nobody's going to that, but that information fuels this. So you're optimizing for that little result on the right-hand side, or if it's a carousel result, but it's all coming from that Google Plus page. If you might be familiar, if you did this a while ago, the old Google Places dashboard where you filled out a form like this. It's changed quite a bit, so I'm going to give a brief tour since it's only been a couple months since it changed. But where it's located now is google.com/business, again in the link bundle. You go in there and you can click edit and add a whole bunch of information. It's got this progress bar, and you do want to make it 100%. So starting out, this is going to be the rule for everything. Every profile and directory that I mentioned, you're going to want to follow these same steps. And that's always use the official business name. So no keywords, no location data unless it's part of your business. But even then, it really should be the mailing address, what you'd write on a letter. You want to move your map pin, make sure that that's accurate and reflecting where you actually are. You want to use your local phone number, not a tracking number, not 800 number, a local area code. That's going to be a big factor. And then the website or web page. And so if you only have one location or maybe two, then it's okay to put your home page right there. But if you've got anything over that, if you've got over 3 locations for sure, you do want to make sure that you're using that location page that we discussed earlier, and that's the listing that's the URL that goes there. So if there's if we had an office in Seattle, office in Chicago, office in New York, then this would go to the location page for our specific Seattle office. You're also going to want to enter categories. Google used to let you write customized categories. Now it only allows you to choose from pre-populated categories, and so these are the ones that exist within Google. These are the 3 that are going to be the most relevant to retailers, so to Precore retailers. So I recommend at least doing these 3. If there's some other ones that you feel are relevant, then go ahead and do those. But exercise equipment store, sporting goods store, and sports equipment rental are going to be the ones that I think everyone should do. There's also other fields. You just want to be sure that they're all filled out. You want to be sure to put photos in there. People respond really well to photos, and people respond people respond better to pictures of storefronts or inside the storefronts more than actual logos. So basically the opposite of what Portent is doing right here. Make it a picture of your storefront or of the inside of your location. You want to write a brief description, and then you can always check your work at the end. Another thing, if you don't choose photos, Google will choose for you, so that's one of the most important things about it. It's probably not going to be as extreme of an example as this, but that's just something to keep in mind as a worst case scenario. Some other things you can do with this Google business listing is just make status updates. It is a Google Plus page, so it can be a way to get some visibility in front of other Google Plus users, and those Google Plus users are the most likely people to write reviews on Google, so it is worth kind of catering to them a little bit. It's also got its own insights. You can click here and view how many times people clicked on directions, how many times your profile showed up, and other information like that. You can manage reviews, and so if you get a negative or positive review, you can actually respond to it. So this is a negative review. You can click respond and then write, sorry I had a bad experience, here's what you do. That way you kind of demonstrate that you do care about your customers. It can be an opportunity to sort of make it up to them, or at least demonstrate customer service to your audience. You can also sync up Google Analytics and YouTube to your Google Business Dashboard if you want, and that's kind of a good way just to have everything sort of centralized in the same spot. So some general tips for Google Local: make sure everything's filled out. Remember that carousel results that's not around right now but might come back. You can't be in there if you don't have a picture, so just put a picture in there. Just make sure you've got pictures on there. Look at your competitors. If they've got something in that right-hand side, that's what the knowledge graph refers to. And they have information that you don't have, you can just take it, use it in your own, put it somewhere. And then lastly, don't ever use microsites. Those are little one-off sites that might target one particular aspect or one particular location of your business. It's better just to have everything on one site, and it's going to be a lot easier for you. They don't do any good. The next place I'm going to go over is Bing Places. It's located here. This is Bing's Business Center, and it's pretty much the same. If you don't already have it claimed, you're going to claim it the exact same way you claim Google. I think it's more likely that some of you don't have this one claimed compared to Google. but it's the same process. You're going to look for your business and then verify it using a postcard or phone call. Once you find it, you select it, and then you can, if it exists, or you enter it brand new. It's also got a progress bar just like Google, so you want to make sure that's 100%, and then you're just following the same rules as you were before. You are making sure you're using the official business name that appears in the letter, making sure your map pin's okay. And one cool thing that Bing allows you to do is point to specific social networks like Facebook or Twitter. So you have your business webpage where you're going to point to your location page, but then you can also point just to your general Facebook and Twitter URLs if you want to use those. Like Google, you're going to have to pick from specific categories that are preset. So these are the ones that exist in Bing that are most relevant to Precore dealers. So just use those and any others that you think are relevant, but at least those. General tips for Bing: make sure everything's filled out, upload lots of high quality pictures just because you can, and be sure to be aware of duplicate locations, and that's sort of an ongoing thing for everything. Sometimes there can be slight variations in your address. That's the importance of being consistent, and when that happens, you just want to report those as duplicates. There's one more outside of Google and Bing, and that's Yelp. And this is very important, and I know it's an opportunity because I know that a lot of you aren't doing it. And I know that because I did a lot of research looking for Precore dealers with through Yelp and stuff, and could not find a lot. So this is a huge opportunity just within fitness equipment in general that isn't being utilized by many people, by many businesses in fitness equipment. It's just there's barely any businesses in there. So this is a huge opportunity. So if you're not on Yelp, take advantage of it and show up there. You might be wondering why worry about Yelp. It's not the most popular thing in some areas, but the thing is that it is pretty popular. 132 million monthly users are on Yelp. 74,000 business counts exist on Yelp. 57 million reviews, and this is from about 3 months ago. So these numbers have all gotten bigger. And the other thing is that people tend to think that only young people use Yelp, but really the largest age group on it is 35 to 54-year-olds, so that's right within the Precore demographic, and so it is a great opportunity. But to me, there's really one reason, or there's really two reasons why you should use Yelp that overrule even all these, and that's that Apple uses it. If you want to show up good on Apple Maps, this is the way to do it by optimizing your Yelp listing. And number two, Bing uses it. So Bing uses its own information, but almost all of its reviews are coming from Yelp. In fact, pretty much anything except for Google is getting reviews from Yelp, and a lot more. They just opened up that door to more people. So this is where you want to claim it, again, in the link bundle. So you're just going to go here, enter your business information. It's going to look to see if it's there. If it's, they do a manual review process. So you're going to enter your business information, and it's going to go to a person. They're going to do some of their own digging to see if it actually exists. So this is one I submitted that will probably get declined because I made it up. But this is what you're going to do. It's just like with Bing and Google, you're going to want to be sure to enter all the information using your actual business name, that local phone number. And again, it's going to make you choose from pre-populated categories. With Yelp, it's kind of confusing because both of them exist within the shopping section. So there's the fitness and exercise equipment within shopping, and then there's also sporting goods. It's going to ask you if you want to specify beyond that, and just don't. You can leave that blank. That's totally okay. Just because it's probably more relevant just to be under the general sporting goods category. It's also got some metrics that you can play around with, so you can see how many people are using it. So if you're curious on if there's any payout of it directly on the Yelp site, you can look at that. The one thing Yelp is famous for, though, is its reviews. And one thing about those reviews is that it's got the strictest review filter on the internet, and it's really, really proud of that. So that's just how it is. It just means that low-level users are blocked. So if you get a customer that's never written a Yelp review and then they write a great review for you, it's going to get blocked, and that just is kind of how it works. So that's always too bad. But if that does happen, then you can at least just see them, look on your Yelp profile, business profile, and just take the blocked reviews and put them on your website. Don't ever try to trick Yelp, just because one of the reasons why they have that super strict filter is because they like blocking people that try to trick it, and that just means people that are trying to write fake reviews for their own business. If you work there and you write a review for Yelp, it'll catch you and it will just take it down. So generally, some great tips for Yelp. Just make sure everything's filled out. Upload lots of pictures. It's got tons of rooms of pictures of it, and it uses that sort of flipbook type style for the pictures, and so filling it out really enhances the look of your Yelp profile. Don't ever try to trick it, so don't write reviews for yourself. Don't get your friends just to write a ton of reviews because they'll get blocked, and again, manage duplicates. There's a couple other places I want to talk about. One of them is Foursquare, and I'm just really briefly going to talk about two other locations. Starting with Foursquare, and again, you might think of Foursquare as just something that young people use just for fun, and it's kind of going away. It recently is turning into the app turned into another app called Swarm, but Foursquare for Business still exists. And the reason why it's important is that it's the primary provider for most check-in apps. So anytime someone uses any sort of check-in software, no matter what the app is, they're using Foursquare data. Instagram still uses Foursquare data. Pinterest. So if you're doing anything like that with mobile apps, then or you think any of your customers are, you want to make sure that you're on Foursquare. It also recently struck a big deal with Microsoft. So Microsoft gave them a few $1 million to use their data for the next few years. So they're going to be around for a little bit in some form. And if you want to get any visibility from any sort of check-in apps, you should just go to this Foursquare, and that link is in the bundle as well. I'm going to mention Facebook. Facebook is sort of is worth mentioning because it's a very popular website, but it doesn't really have much of an impact on anything outside of Facebook. So it's sort of whatever happens on Facebook stays on Facebook, at least in search marketing, which is sort of the opposite of the real world. But the general theme for Facebook is that it gives you increased visibility on Facebook. It might be the provider for location data on Instagram in the future, but really reviews, visibility in Facebook is the benefit, and that's worth doing because it's the second most popular website in the world after Google. One neat thing it does is that it lets you put your location in another business. So if you're a kiosk or if you're located in a mall, you can actually specify that within Facebook, and it's something that I always wish the other Google and Bing would do. There also are a lot of other directories, and that's what we're going to be talking about for most of the time. So those are the 3 or 4 that you should at least sign up for manually. Depending on where you are, the 5th and 6th and 7th most popular ones are going to be on this list at this link. So just go to this link, see what directories are important, and then I would recommend at least manually signing up for a couple of those. So you might be wondering, that's a lot, if there's anywhere else, and the answer is yes, there's a lot else. The whole local SEO ecosystem, as it's sometimes referred, is just a network of different data providers, different citation providers that all feed information to each other. So it's basically a bunch of directories that give information to other directories that give information to other directories, and you're wondering how can you manage all of this? And it's very difficult. So fortunately there's some tools. I'm going to go over 2 tools that are very useful, and they're also useful for managing this as paid solutions. But first, there's Yext. So this is useful to just scan your business and look for problems. You just enter your business name and phone number right there. It's called their free business scanner. You enter your information, hit scan now, and it's going to give you a list, throw some animation up on the top of the screen, then give you a list of anywhere where there might be problems. So this business in particular, it's missing in Yahoo. The phone number is wrong on Facebook, and so there's some other little things like that. So it can really help you fine-tune that. Another good thing about it is that you just click on View Listing, and then it takes you to the directory listing, so you don't even have to search for it again outside of this. So you can literally just go down the line, click on each one of those, and fix them. Moz Local is another place that does pretty much the same thing, something very similar. You enter your business name and zip code there. It's going to look for duplicates, so this is primarily looking, focuses on identifying and correcting duplicate listings. So you're going to pick the most accurate listings, and then it's going to give you a series of scores, show you which ones of all the directory listings that it's fine, which ones are complete, which ones are incomplete, which ones have wrong information, and which ones are duplicates. So this is just telling you which one's off. You can see, so this is a duplicate. You hit fix duplicate and you can fix it. And it's very useful for that. So what about everything else? So but that's still a lot of manual work. So there are some paid solutions to help you with that. As you can see right here, most of the information is coming from the 5 major data providers, and that's Infogroup, Yext, Axiom, Newstar, Localese, and Factual. Those are the top dog data providers that feed information to all those other directories below them and then eventually go to Google. So these are the main ones. You can sign up for each one of them, but they all cost money. So it can be helpful just to sort of give an overview of how to submit to them. Yext is one of those major providers. It provides to a lot of them. It's about $199 to $499 a year per location, depending on what your plan is. One of the benefits is that it directly feeds into a lot of directories, so it's really, really fast, and it changes directories that only it has access to. So it's really, really useful for that. It's a really simple process too. You're just going to enter your business name, again, actual business name and local phone number and local web page, and then submit it. Some of the cons is that it is pretty expensive. It doesn't hit all of those directories out there in the world, and then if you cancel it, everything reverts to how it was before your subscription. Moz Local is, again, another solution. They have great paid service, and the way that it works is a little bit different. Instead of Yext is a directory provider, Moz feeds into 4 of the 5 major directory providers instead. So basically it goes to all the major directory providers except for Yext. It's only $49 a year per location, so it's a little bit cheaper, and then it monitors duplicate locations really closely. The trick with Moz is that you have to fill out a CSV file. That can be a little bit confusing, but I actually made a Google Doc to make that a little bit easier. So you can go to this website, again, it's in the link bundle, but if you go here, then that can sort of help you fill out that CSV that is required for Moz. Some cons is that it is a little bit slower since it's feeding to directory providers that then feed to other directory providers rather than Yext that just feeds directly to directories. It takes a little bit more time, but it's definitely worth it because it has a long-term gain. You might need to still claim a few listings if they're already manually claimed by someone else. There might be some manual work that you've got to do after that, and then a couple of them revert after you cancel. If you want to do this all manually, you can. Basically, you're just going to be doing really a lot of quoted searches for your phone number and quoted searches for your business name, and then going down Google and looking at each one of those. So you can do it manually. These are just sort of automated ways of doing the same thing. The next thing we're going to talk about is reviews, which we're going to close up. And this is going to be pretty brief, but it is something that a lot of people are very interested in and a lot of people have a lot of questions about. So why are they important? They're important because people trust them. If you have a lot of reviews, people are going to trust your business a little bit more. They tend to rank higher, so whenever you see a place with a lot of reviews, they're usually ranking higher in the search engines because it just shows that amount of activity, and they do play a factor as a ranking factor. And they can really make or break you. A horrible review can really have a significant impact on your business, so you want to at least be aware of them. So let's talk about getting reviews. So how do you get good reviews? I'm going to go for the best answer, the fail-safe, 100% successful way of getting reviews, and that is to provide exceptional and memorable service, which is what no one ever wants to hear. But that is the best way. It's just to provide good customer service and make your customers want to write a review for you. That's the best review strategy, and that's the best review strategy anyone can give. There are some tips that I can give on top of that for some tactics that might help tweak that a little bit. First, here's some things that you shouldn't do. We'll start out with that. You shouldn't put up a review station on like a computer in your business because that gets flagged by the search engines and by Yelp, and all those reviews will get taken down. You shouldn't try to do fake reviews. Those will always get removed. Or ask a third party. So you shouldn't pay a bunch of people in another country to write a bunch of reviews for you. Those will always get flagged. Same thing if you get a ton of them at once. That's never barely going to happen naturally. And so those will tend to just get removed. And don't ever incentivize reviews. Don't ever directly incentivize reviews, especially online. Don't ever say you can get a discount by writing a review on Yelp. That'll get flagged and that'll get you in a lot of trouble. You can ask for them in person, so that just means thanking customers for their purchase, asking them to go to, hey, would you, if they're happy, asking them to go to Google or Yelp and fill out a review, or if there's any phone calls, if you're doing a follow-up call, if that's ever appropriate, that might be a good time to ask for a review as well. You can also just make people sort of aware of the reviews that exist, that your review sites exist online. So just putting up these signs on your counter, or getting those stickers from Google or Bing. All of those review sites will happily give you as many stickers as you want. So just you can go on their websites and order them. Here's a little technique that someone made. It's just a review handout. So it's just a piece of paper that gives them instructions on how to write a good review. How to fill out a Google profile and how to turn that into a review. One thing that people might try doing is QR codes, and I was a big fan of them, and I've never seen them work. So I wouldn't recommend using this as a strategy. You can still have them; it's not going to hurt anything. But I tried really hard to turn this into a review strategy, and I just found that no one ever scans them. You can put buttons on your website. So both Yelp and Google, those would be the two places that I would focus on for getting reviews, would be those two sites. And both of them have little badges that you can throw on your website. And if you just look up Yelp badge, you'll find it, and it's just a block of code you can copy and paste. Same thing with Google, the Google Plus badge. And so you just want to be sure that points to the right business listing. On Google, you can do something called barnacle reviews. So remember earlier when I was talking about your business profile in Google, how you could use it as a Google Plus page and comment on stuff? That's what I'm talking about. So basically, after you've set up the location, you're going to click up there and select Use as Business. And then it says you're now using this page as Google as your Google Plus page, and then you can go around and just write reviews for other restaurants. So this is Portent writing a review for a restaurant, and mentioning and getting some visibility there. So this gets you some visibility in front of Google Plus users, which isn't the largest audience, but what they are is that they're the audience that's most likely to write a review on Google. So they are worth pandering to, again, a little bit. I'm not sure exactly how this execution will work for retailers, but something that a lot of businesses have found success in is just hosting a Yelp Elite events. So Yelp Elite is basically just groups of people that exist in every city that love Yelp and write a lot of reviews, and they're all friends and they hang out. If you host some sort of event for them, you never incentivize them, but you just host an event and let them all be there. They'll all write reviews on Yelp because that's what they do, and that's how they know each other. And so hosting Yelp Elite events is one way just to sort of get a bunch of high-quality reviews that typically won't get declined because these are all high-quality reviewers. You can also email reminders and thank yous and stuff like that to your customers if you have their email address. If you don't have any sort of email marketing platform or email management system, MailChimp's a really inexpensive one and is often free depending on how many emails you send out. If you're not going to send out a whole lot, then you can use this free. And what it does is that it just monitors who you've sent emails to, lets you set up really basic campaigns, really basic templated email formats that look nice but are also just easy to measure. So that way you can sort of keep track of who you're emailing things to. When you do that, MailChimp lets you do this really easily, but just make sure to include links to your actual social sites. So links to your Google Plus page where they can write a review for you there, your Yelp, Facebook, and Twitter. Social media is really useful for just getting reviews. You can thank customers for their purchases, send customers through to specific pages through social. It's a way to follow up with customers after their purchase sometimes. You can identify people who might be interested in your product that are very active on social media, and it's just another opportunity just to provide an outstanding customer service. So that's one of the benefits of just social media in general. And that really wraps it up. So local SEO can really be summarized in these 4 basic steps. You want to have a good website with a focus. and the right elements in place. Fill out those profiles, fill out all the right business profiles, and make sure they're done well. Work with a directory listing provider at some capacity, either by using one of the paid solutions or just by managing it yourself, and have some sort of review strategy, even if that review strategy is just to throw in an extra thank you every time you talk to a customer. And then I'm just going to end with this, because the real benefit of local SEO is getting people to your front door. And what I always say is that it's getting people to your website is just the first step. What that you ultimately want them to do is just go into your doorstep and meet you. And that's it. So thank you very much, and that's it. So here's my contact information. If you have any questions, just send it to george@portent.com.
And services that we've worked with them to create that we think are about the right size and about the right scope to get you going. If the information here has piqued your interest and you're kind of thinking, wow, that's great stuff, we need to get going, but who can I turn to help do that? We think we've found a trusted resource for you. So Chris, go ahead and talk about some of those offerings that you could potentially help our retailers with, and then we'll get into the Q&A right after that.
Sure. Absolutely. So as Jeff shared, we do want to help you folks in getting this strategy implemented. And so George is going to kind of walk us through 2 different packages that are available for you.
Thanks. And so one of the things that we do believe is that there's not really a cookie cutter approach for anyone out there, and so we do have 2 specific packages. One of them is a little bit more flexible, just because we know that not all of you are the same size or have the same amount of locations. So we have 2 packages that I want to go over that are really geared for small and medium-sized businesses. One is the SEO Local package, and so this is just focusing specifically on those business listings within Google My Business, Bing, Foursquare, Yelp, and then setting you up to work with a directory provider. It's $500 for up to 2 listings, and then $200 after each additional listing, just because there is a lot of work that's going into that, and it's really focused on specifically getting those directories accurate and throughout everywhere online, and helping you succeed there. And so it can be really, really useful to show up on those map results, and so it can be very, very helpful. The other one, which is separate and you can has a different focus, is our SEO Essentials. And so this is really set up for small websites or any size website, but really, really works well for small websites, where it's a one-time fee of $1,000 and you just get 10 easy to execute and customized tips, followed with an hour of consulting, where you can we go through your website and find the 10 things that are most important, that you get the most action items. So a lot of times what we found is when people work with other SEO agencies, they just kind of get a big old list of information and don't really have any context to it. So what we try to do is just give you 10 things that we know you can do that will help your website, and they're all prioritized.
Great. And again, a copy of this information will be in the presentation for you to reference. I know your heads must be spinning a little bit with all of the tips that we've provided today, but we've got just about 10 minutes left together, and we've got a number of questions to ask George, and so I want to go ahead and dive into that. One, George, you had mentioned, tricking Yelp. Can you give us an example of how, what tricking Yelp looks like, or specifically what not to do?
Yeah. So the most frequent example of tricking Yelp is when the business owner or someone from the business writes a review for themselves. There's enough signals online that you can usually tell where someone works. And so employees will try reviewing their own business, and those almost always get blocked pretty much unanimously, no matter how active and trusted that Yelp profile is. The other way that people try to trick things is that they might try paying and incentivizing people to throw a bunch of reviews up on Yelp, and those usually actually get caught. So I just wouldn't recommend doing that, because that really can hurt your visibility within Yelp.
So to clarify there, George, you were saying, it's let people know that you're in these communities and that you welcome reviews, but there's a fine line of incentivizing with money or discount. It can't be seen as a bribe. It has to be authentic.
Exactly. So the verbiage that Yelp always wants you to use related to reviews is just, or awareness of your Yelp page, is that you're showing off the good reviews you already have. And so when you point someone to the Yelp page online, you say, look at our good reviews on Yelp, or look at our reviews on Yelp. You're not ever actively asking someone to write a review.
Got it. That makes sense. And just a reminder, folks, if you do have a question, go ahead and use that question box. Again, there should be a pop-up screen. It's usually on the right side of your screen, and it's powered by GoToMeeting, but it'll allow you to talk with us. So go ahead and add that question there, and I will be looking for it and making sure that we answer that for you. Next question, George, what if there's a business that has 20 locations? Are we looking for 20 different pages that highlights, for each location, and then does that mean that each of those would have its own phone number?
That's exactly what it means. And so what Google and the other search engines are really looking for is a specific local presence. They want to know where each one of those storefronts are, and really sort of treats them as their own results. And so the way that you do that is that if you've got 20 different locations, each one of those needs to have its own web page. Each of those web pages is linked to its own business account, so that way if I look it up on Google Maps, I can, even if there's 10 different ones in the area, I can see which one I want to directly contact and drive through. And so it's really that specific of information.
All right. How long does it take? I do all this work, and I've got my directories going. I've got a system for reviews and highlighting people that I'm present in that. I've made changes to my web pages, following your NAP strategy, having the name, address, phone number. How long should I be waiting to see those results, to see my business appear in those local listings?
Sure. The thing about SEO in general is that it is a long game. 3 to 6 months is going to be the minimum of what you're looking for, because that's usually the amount of time for, especially if you've never worked with a directory provider, that's about how 3 to up to 6 months is how much time it takes from that information to get from that field of directory information to those online directories, because what those are doing is that they're feeding other directories, which feed other directories, and it can be a very, very long process for all of those directories to update. So that alone can take a few months, and then the rest of it sort of varies on what your competition is and what the other websites in your area and are up to. So it is a long game. That's why, but the payoff is generally a lot better in the long term.
Great. Another question. Does the page title need to have NAP in the product description? So maybe talk to us about, if I'm creating this individual page for, being out of Seattle, we'll say Seattle, Olympia, and Tacoma locations, for example, what else do I have on that page, and how am I linking to my products, or do I need to have all my product information on each of those pages? What does that information architecture look like?
Sure. So for titles, you do want to be as specific as possible within the limits. So usually you're only getting about 67 characters to work with in the first place, and you need to leave some room for your branding. So for the location pages, you don't want to use the full NAP, but you want to use something very specific, like exercise equipment in Chicago or something along those lines. And then for the location pages, if they're in different areas, then it would be exercise equipment in Hinsdale, exercise equipment in Aurora, and so forth. For the other pages, I would pick the most important region and just really focus on that. So, using Seattle as an example, there's Seattle. If you got storefronts in Seattle and then all the surrounding suburbs, Seattle would probably be the main one you want to focus on the rest of the website, just to free up some of those characters. When you get to internal pages, you just want to make sure that they all have a focus. And so if it's a product page, then it should be the title should just list that specific product. If it's a product category, then that page should list that product category. And you just want to make sure that everything is unique. And the good rule of thumb just for titles is just make sure that if you saw them all in a list, you would know what you would expect on each one of those. If someone just handed you a list of 20 different titles, you know what would be on those pages, or have an idea what would be on the type of stuff that would be on those pages if you clicked on them.
That's a good tip. Talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned, especially through the directories, how important it is to have high quality imagery. What are some examples that these folks should think about?
The best thing you can always do for images is pictures of the inside and outside of your store. Those are the ones that get the best response. Those are the ones that Google tends to always tries to put up front. So if you put your logo, a picture of you smiling, and a picture of your your storefront, and then a picture of the inside of the store, in those local carousel results, Google would always prefer the inside picture of the storefront. And the reason why it did that is just because that's what people responded to. That's the one that people they did testing on that, and that's what people tend to want to see, is they want to see what the inside of your store looks like and the outside of your store. So those are always the best things to look for, and to upload to the web page. To the business listing.
Great. All right. Well, I think we just got one more question. How about the store tours or videos? Do those get searched for, or do they get indexed by directories and search engines like Google?
They don't. If you're using some sort of widget, that can't get. There's not really a spot for that within Google and Yelp and Bing. If you want to highlight a couple images of that and upload those as internal images, then you can do that. Google actually has, and this is something I can throw into the link bundle, it does have two map tours. So part of Google Maps is that you can actually hire a photographer to walk through your business and show and take pictures of the inside of your store. And then that will show up in Google Maps. People can then click, when you do that street view thing, they can click from the sidewalk to your front door and then click around your store. And that can be kind of useful because that adds a lot more. It's a neat feature to have and something that probably enhances trust. But it is a separate service, and they have maybe 100 approved photographers in the country that are allowed to do that. So you've got they got a pretty good tight hold on that right now. So you got to book one of those photographers. But I can put that in the link bundle if you are interested in that.
So you seem to be highlighting more of the user experience. So aside from what search engines and directories are going to value, at the end of the day, it could be a really big value add for folks who are just wanting to learn more about you and visualize your store. Cool. All right, one last question here. We've got a couple final things to wrap up with you folks. We talked a little bit about QR codes, and I think that there's still some questions out there about, is it valuable? Is it something that customers are still using? So you had mentioned that as a tip for not using QR codes as a major way to drive traffic, but in general, from a marketer to marketer, how valuable do you think QR codes are today?
Honestly, not really valuable at all. I was a big fan of them when they came out, and I had a lot of fun with them and gave them to a lot of businesses as ways to get through get to those pages. But we didn't get any clicks from them. No one out in the real world was really clicking on them, so I don't really recommend them. I think the future of that is really more within check-in apps, and that's how the best way. And so that's another reason why it's good to monitor your business listing in Google and Foursquare and Facebook and stuff like that, is because that tends to be how people are getting to you to write reviews versus scanning the QR codes.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how that's been such a trend that's come and gone so quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, internet marketing. So a couple wrap-up items. We want to hand things over to Annie. She's going to close everything up for us this afternoon. But just a reminder, the Portent team is going to be working this afternoon to put together an email that you'll get from us tomorrow morning. Again, you'll have a link bundle that you can click on that one link, and you'll have access to all of the different sites that we referenced in today's presentation. You'll also have a copy of the actual presentation slide deck that we've shared with you too. George's information is on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to him. He's on Twitter, and then also his email address, which isn't on this slide, it's at the beginning, is just george@portent.com. Again, that's just george@portent.com, and he'd be happy to answer a question for you or talk to you a little bit more about how Portent can help. Again, we, in addition to the thousands of companies that George has worked with, Portent can be a really great resource for you too outside of just local SEO. We're here to help. And so if you have any questions on how we can help, please reach out and let us know. Annie, let's go ahead and hand things over to you to wrap things up for us today.
Hi, everybody. Well, I found that useful. Obviously, some of you that probably do this all day long might have found some things pretty basic, but I thought it was great. And what I'd like to make sure that you do for us is give us feedback. We need to tailor these to help your business. That's why we're doing these, and we need to make sure we understand what's going to be most useful for you. And I know that Portent can do a variety of things for us, so it's important that we hear back from you and really, understand how we tailor things as we move forward. So I will probably be sending out kind of a questionnaire for you after we're finished, after Chris and team works the information to send you guys out the video as well, or the audio portion of this. So please, a lot of you have my email address already. If you have some thoughts, please send me an email, let me know. So Jeff and I can really, work to tailor these as we move forward. Hopefully we can just continue to grow as we learn more and more about this stuff and help you guys. So thanks for joining. Really appreciate it.
All right, that about wraps it up for us today. Thank you so much for spending your morning or afternoon with us, and we look forward to speaking with you all in the future. Thanks so much.